Alrighto, welcome back to the Maximum Cricket Podcast. You're here with Munter and Jacko, and we sort of have Lugsy. Lugsy does give us his apologies. He's had a bit of a big weekend. You may have seen on our story. He was actually first, which I didn't actually put on there, but he ran 50k over the weekend. Bit of a runner, as Simon likes to point out.
Can run.
Yeah, he's pretty tired. He's pretty boozed up, and but we do have a couple of takes that he has recorded for us, so he will pop in throughout the pod. So we are talking England-South Africa second test, massive turnaround from Bazball with Dean Alger going from hero to zero real quick. Speaking of heroes, the Ben Stokes documentary has come out, and what a way to promote your doco than a man of the match performance on the same weekend. We've got Out or Not Out, where we're talking about bat selections, Coach Corner, where we're talking about sore backs for the bowlers, and much, much more. But first, sit back, grab yourself your favourite snack, because it is Snack of the Week.
It's a yes bang maximum, the first of this contest. Oh, that is brilliant. It's a hero maximum. On the ground, down the ground, another hero maximum.
Righto, Snack of the Week here. We'll do a recap of the last couple of weeks. We had basically a 2-horse race this week between myself and Jacko, where it could have gone either way. I actually thought Jacko probably should have taken it, but I got a bit of luck there, which is good. But there was a
controversial vote.
Yeah, we want to go down that road now, do we? Okay, we'll go down that road. Okay, no, that's right. We'll start there. No, that's fine. Yes. There. So yeah, as Jacko alluded to, there was a controversial vote that did divide a certain household. Yes, my lovely wife decided to vote for Jacko's lovely apple pie, which initially did sort of cut me a little deep, and I asked the question, and the response was swift. It was, I like apple pie, and it's tough to argue with that. But you think you know someone, you think you stand in front of a few people,
through thick and thin, sickness and health.
Yeah, through non-apple pie and apple pie, I would have thought, but that's fine.
Especially considering, like, the snack you had was like a family snack. Like, you've each had one of the trumpets, so there's obviously some distaste from your snack selection coming through there.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I guess we'll have to get a couple of apple pies through the household, and we'll move on. But that's fine. I actually sort of moved on from that emotionally, so it's always good to regurgitate that and
rehash that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Looks like you really resonated with the overnight listeners, because I went to bed at 58%, and you and Crom sort of trailing in my dust, and sort of checked back in a day later and I'd lost. So the English listeners must be your sort of foray.
Yeah, I don't know what sort of happened there. No, it was a tie.
Was it a tie?
Yeah, it was a tie. Potentially, maybe in the future, we could do like a sudden death, where we just sort of kick out the loser and then just do like a
Tuesday snack.
Yeah, that sort of carry on. But that's fine. Yeah. We'll talk about the elephant in the room, and the elephant in the room is Lugsy coming in a distant third for a second week. And that isn't the reason he's not on. He hasn't thrown his toys out of the cot and just gone, I've had enough of this game. But he did have a particular message for this week. If
I can play that. He does have a message addressing the listeners, and his shortcomings. Probably the two big press releases of the week are going to be Ian Foster's and this from Simon Cromedy.
G'day to the Maximum Cricket Podcast listeners. Simon Cromedy, or better known as Lugsy, joining you here. I'm just coming in for a bit of snack chat, as unfortunately done a bit of a run yesterday and I'm all-time tired, and potentially I may have indulged in a few too many adult beverages this morning and the Zavo, but I didn't want to miss out on talking a few snacks with you. Obviously, the results have probably been read out from last week, I'd imagine, where once again I've came out on the short end. And what I've realised pretty early on here is you listeners are looking for pretty good quality, and I'm more of a quantity guy. So whereas Jackson and Munter seem to be having their nice snacks sort of once every Monday, I'm sort of snacking all day, every day. But I guess I've got to change with the times. Once again today, I can't see myself winning, although I have to say I have indulged in snacks for the last sort of 24 hours straight. So I'm pretty pretty ripping mud cake I've been into with a bit of ice cream recently. Full bag of snakes yesterday. I mean, I've had 19 to 25 savouries in the last couple of hours. Quite a couple of Kit Kats. It's been pretty full time, but I'm sure that's not enough to get me the win. So congratulations to Matt and Jacko on sort of figuring out how the snack game works. And I'll look to rebuild and be sort of better next week. There is a part of me that is trying to go healthy, sort of from next week on. So not sure how that's going to work with Snapchat, but I'll do what I have to get a couple of wins in the future, and just look to rebuild.
I don't actually know how we narrow that down to a snack of this week rather than just putting everything on the graphic for him.
That was my sort of question. I don't know. I wasn't sure if he was sort of forfeiting or he had like every single snack under the sun. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
I did appreciate the healthy.
I'm looking to go healthy. Yeah, I like that.
Knowing Simon for as long as we do, I mean, he's been manning to go healthy for a while now. We yet to see it. So
yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, so maybe the graphic, he just gets everything, just the word everything, and see how that sort of resonates with the listeners. My snack of the week. Now this is sort of a Hail Mary to get my first outright win. I've gone with leftover sweet and sour pork on leftover chicken fried rice.
Jesus Christ, that's going to be a tough act to follow.
Which is very good.
That is tough. That is pretty good. I mean, I don't want to sort of, I'd hate to sort of like poo-poo someone's sort of snack, but I mean, we are sort of bordering on the like meals, like full-on meals.
Yeah,
like, I mean, to be fair, last week we were desserts and all sorts of stuff. So, but that's great. I mean, to be fair, I would gladly have some of that.
Yeah, it's a good snack portion because, I mean, I haven't had a Chinese meal, a succulent Chinese meal's worth. We're talking maybe four or five bits of pork.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, I'm with you. No, I'll rate that because I was going to say, well, I had fish and chips, so I'll just take that. But no, I won't do that.
It's not the meal of the week.
Yeah. So I'm going to actually prepare it for the editing process afterwards. But I'm actually going a pretty standard sort of option, but it's sort of a little bit controversial because you only sort of have it in a certain situation where where you're watching a movie a movie.
Yeah.
So I'm going with your popcorn. I'm going to sort of heat up some popcorn, get it popping.
Beautiful.
Potentially, I'll see if there's any chocolate floating around. Put that in there.
You thrown an M&M in your popcorn before?
We've had Maltesers. If we go to the movies, chuck a wee Malteser.
Special.
Yeah, same sort of scenario, but
a special snack.
Yeah, and I'll also have a wee 250ml zero sugar Coca-Cola in the can form, of course.
Beautiful.
So that'll get me through the night.
Yeah, always better out of a can.
Righto. Should we talk about some cricket on a cricket podcast?
Yeah. I think we should probably get into it.
That's a great idea. So
great idea.
So let's. There hasn't been a lot of cricket. There's been one massive test. So we'll talk about that, and also a documentary which you may or may not have heard. Let's talk England South Africa second test after South Africa absolutely pantsing England in the first test, and a complete role reversal with Elgar of the Dean variety going from hero to zero as England smoked South Africa by an innings and also inside 3 days. There is a lot to unpack from this test. But first, I would just like to go on a little bit of a rant, if I may, about some of the mistakes South Africa made before a ball was even bowled.
Yeah.
Now, this is a wee timeline. So they brought in Simon Harmer as the second spinner. You know, he's got a fantastic record in England. So I kind of understand it, but at the same time, this broke up one of the most complete bowling attacks we've ever had that absolutely dominated from the first test. To make that happen, they dropped Marco Jansen, left-handed, 140 Ks, 6'8", and probably the worst part about that is Jansen is the strongest batter out of all the bowlers. So this meant
borderline all-rounder actually.
Yeah, sort of on that, probably a little better than Kyle Jamieson. Do you think? Yeah, sort of scenario.
Sort of probably your Wokeses, your Jamiesons, probably the better end of batting of that group. Yeah.
Yeah, like a 7.5 sort of thing.
Yeah, not quite a genuine stick, but getting close.
Yeah, that's it. So that meant Maharaj, he averages 16 with the stick, was asked to bat 7. Now, maybe that would work if South Africa had a world-class top 6. Well, they don't exactly have that because not a single batsman averages above 40, and they're even worse away from home. Cricket Info released a stat that South Africa's top 6 averages only 26 away from home over the last 3 years. Compared to others, that's dead last, 11th out of 11 out of all Test nations. That's quite something. So now, on the morning of day 1, South Africa won the toss, and because they picked 2 spinners, they had to bat first because they needed to be bowling last. Otherwise, what's the point of picking 2 spinners? The problem with that is they elected to bat first with potentially the most brittle batting lineup in world cricket right now against the bowling attack of Anderson, Broad, and Ollie Robinson in seamer-friendly conditions. So, with all that being said, 150 all out makes a lot of sense to me. What were your thoughts on that those decisions there, Jacko?
Baffling. I mean, we've got this stoic Dean Elgar. He's come out, he's talked the talk, and he's walked it in the first test. He's basically said to Bazball, here's my 4 quicks, have at him, and they weren't up to it. And then he's gone, oh, that's worked. Why don't we take one away, overwork our other 3, bowl 2 spinners, and we won't bat below 6. Yeah, quite just bizarre decision making. Sort of, I don't know what it is about England that teams are sort of overthinking selections a wee bit.
Yeah.
We sort of saw it out of the Black Caps. There was we had some injuries in that tour. Don't get me wrong, some stuff that took it out of our control. But I mean, we saw it with Ajaz in the first test, bowled an over. Yeah, I don't know what is happening in England that people are just, they overthink it, and I think that's what's happened here massively. I don't know, maybe they need a top 6 batter they can rely to bowl a bit more spin. Shit, I don't know, but I mean, yeah, I'd rather face their spinners than any of their nasties. So anything that gets me away from their nasties is a bonus if I'm an English batsman. Which sort of showed up in spades, and it's such a turnaround. I just don't really know. I mean, we're talking last week about, is this the best attack in the world, and are they going to lead Africa to a World Test Championship? But fuck, it depends if they pick them. So yeah, I mean, best place to face the quicks is from the non-strikers or when they're 12th, it seems. So yeah, very bizarre. Hopefully they right the ship, because I'm loving what this Africa team's doing if they're playing well and picking the right team.
Yeah, it's a good point you made about sort of overthinking things. It's almost as if they had their team picked at each ground, and then on the day they didn't really think about it.
Yeah,
they sort of were like oh, the Old Trafford it turns, the Oval it turns. So we'll pick 2 spinners and we'll sort of go from there. But then they didn't think about, from what I understand, it was undercover the first 2 days prior to the first day.
Weather stuff.
Yeah, weather sort of carry on, and it sort of was prime conditions to bowl on that first morning. It was prime batting the second day, where it was flat as you like.
Yeah, England went right, didn't they?
England went nuts, basically 415 for 9 declared. The main contributors being the Stokes and Foakes combo. 170 odd for the 6th wicket, which is about the same amount as what South Africa made in their second innings, but that's neither here nor there. So, I mean, we'll get to Stokes a bit later on, but a couple of questions here, were we surprised with England's efforts, and is Ben Foakes the best looking man in cricket? Because he looked good on and off the pitch, that's for certain. So we'll head to Crom.
I have a lot to say on the second test. Sadly, I was out of internet range and couldn't see a lot of South Africa, England. I think this is just one of those things we've been talking about a bit, though. Like, it's an interesting time at the moment with Test cricket where I guess no one's particularly dominant. So it's not like a team just wins every game and dominant. Sort of each team, each Test nation seems to get their turn at the moment, especially with these sort of top 5 or 6. So even though one side can look particularly good, as Africa did last week, it doesn't take long before, they're beaten and upended, and now it looks like England are the best team again. So it's just an interesting time with Test cricket at the moment where every team sort of has their moment, but no one seems to be dominant for a long time.
So yeah, that's the first take. Very good, I guess. I mean, we've got essentially a top 6 in Test cricket that are all very good. So we can only take that a bonus. And then this is Simon's take on Ben Foakes and his looks.
Is Ben Foakes the best looking guy in world cricket at the moment? It's a damn fine question. I'm not sure I have the answer because it's one of those things where it's all about type, isn't it? I mean, he runs in your Alistair Cook mode. It's classic good looks. Really classic good looks. Probably looks best in a suit, I'd say. Maybe doesn't pull off your street style quite as well, but I'd say definitely looks really sharp in a suit. Cricket, as much as we, probably don't want to admit it, it's not necessarily a sport for the best looking characters or probably not your coolest characters. So I guess some would appeal to your Mitchell Johnsons, that bad boy sort of vibe. I'd say in India, Kohli's got it pretty covered. I'm just sort of trying to think on the fly about you New Zealand cricketers at the moment. Yeah, it looks obviously a tough thing and something we should probably talk about a lot more, I would say, going forward. But is he your best looking in the world at the moment? I mean, he's got a claim to it. He's certainly got a claim to it. He's got those classic good looks, as I mentioned, that I personally do like. So I couldn't throw a flag on the answer. And look, I'll come back. We'll do some follow-up next week, and I'll give you some sort of a top 5, I reckon.
It's interesting he led with a sort of top 5 because I was thinking just off the top of my head, your top 5, because obviously like Ben Foakes has got to be on that list. Pat Cummins comes to mind. Tim Southey. Kohli's definitely in the mix.
Kohli's in there, yeah.
Your Hardik Pandya's got a bit about him. Your Faf.
Yeah, Faf. I mean, some of those boys coming out of Africa are tidy. Your Fafs. Your Jofra Archer's pretty scucks.
Stuart Broad's got a bit about him.
Yeah, Stuart Broad. Archer with the dreads and the chains, that'll really appeal to some people. I reckon Cole Jamieson's got a wee nudge there too, just height and tan.
Can't coach height, eh?
Nah, you can't.
It's always, I'm a vertically challenged person myself, and I've had to work pretty hard over these years just sort of to get a look. In spite of the lack of size, if you will, but and I've seen some interesting sort of characters with a bit of extra height sort of get a bit ahead, but that's neither here nor there, and I'm not bitter at all.
Not bitter.
Nah. But we might have to do a longer pod on just sort of looks criteria, because I think Simon brought up a good point about the classic versus the
English prep school sort of look, which these English boys do pull off.
Like your suits versus your street clothes sort of carry on. I think that's a bit. But we forgot about the Stoin. That's an obvious one.
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to lie. Stoin's 1 of 1 for me.
Just top of the pops, eh?
Yeah. Big Marcus Stoinis fan. If you're listening, get in touch.
Yeah. Friend of the show, maybe one day. Potentially. Very good. So you got anything else to say about sort of Ben Foakes? Because I wouldn't mind sort of touching on this English bowling attack for a little bit.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it sounds like Crom's got plenty more for us in this. I'm sure it's going to get very unpacked when we've got sort of Crom alive and well again. So yeah, definitely can get into this England bowling attack if you like.
Yeah, lovely. So yeah, as I said, so we'll talk about this bowling attack, and just felt like the introduction of Ollie Robinson, who honestly just looks like he's been playing Test cricket for years. There was a stat that came out which sounds a lot like those made up ones that I heard on a podcast, and I haven't fact checked it, but I'm just gonna blurt it out there for the world to hear.
Perfect.
Apparently the second highest release point in Test cricket behind Kyle Jamieson, which honestly I didn't realise he was 6'5".
He's a big boy.
He didn't look that tall, but he obviously is, and he does obviously gets the most out of the action. And you got Stuart Broad just doing what Stuart Broad does, and then you got Jimmy Anderson is 40 years old, and he's still good.
Yeah,
I just can't that stat come out officially the most international wickets by any seamer, 950.
Is he 950 now? Is he?
He might have gone ahead. Yeah, 950, and
he'll get 1,000. That's sickening.
Well, it's an interesting point because I should have asked Simon, but I was just thinking about it before. How long do you think he plays for? Because he's only playing Test cricket, 12 tests a year.
Yeah. I mean, probably genuinely, when the end's probably not on sight yet, is it? Like, I mean, if he was going to really get old, quicks normally happen at that 33, 35, and he's well past that. So, I mean, he's obviously looking after his body really well. 5 more years, maybe? This World Cup cycle, this World Test Championship cycle, and another maybe 2 years. Yeah, I really don't know. He's sort of like Tom Brady in the fact that you just don't know when it's going to stop, and he's not falling off a cliff, and he hasn't fallen off a cliff. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer.
Because it's set up quite perfectly for him, because he's English, so they get paid pretty well to be Test cricketers.
$1 million, I'd say.
I mean, yeah, you're not going to see someone from New Zealand do this, or the West Indies or Australia. It's never going to happen. And if he's only playing Test cricket, so he's not doing any T20s or white ball stuff, he's just playing Test cricket, like he can just prepare for Test after Test. Like after this Test, he's not going to play another Test till they go to Pakistan in November or whatever it is. So he can just rehab till then. Yeah. So I mean, like you said, it could be 5 years, and if he's still doing the job, like he's still bowling at sort of 135.
Yeah, and he still gets a chance. He's still playing in English conditions, half the tests. Like they favour the same as we've sort of seen. Like I mean, Broad, Robinson, Anderson. They're not that's not a terrifying attack, is it? I mean, we talked last week about Africa being 140, and I mean, you're not wanting to front up, but I mean, England are just, I mean, Broad, Anderson, Robinson, like there's no gas, there's no nothing. They just are too good for you. So it's like, well, if you're just going to be too good for blokes and you're still too good for blokes, then yeah, long may it continue. 1,000 wickets on the cards.
I've got another sort of question, hypothetical question. And the inspiration for this question was there was an NBA question that came out about LeBron James, saying that how if he just wanted to play until he was no longer of NBA quality, how old would he be? And it's like, I was thinking like he might be like 45. And then I was thinking about, what about Jimmy Anderson? What about how, if he was say he's just like, I want to play club cricket. He's like, Jacko, big fan of the pod. I want to come down to Burnside and I want to share the new ball with you.
Yeah.
And that's all I want to do. How old would he be until you'd have to have a word to him and say, you're going to have to play twos?
Good question. And I mean, sort of a lovely segue into one of Burnside's legends, actually. We had a bloke who was playing at 47, I believe. He hung his boots up.
Like good 47? Like
9 foot in his last season.
Oh, at 47?
At 47, 9 foot.
Wow. That's actually...
Yeah, so still a good player. Bowler of the tournament at the Club Nationals at 45, I want to say.
Oh, wow.
So still a very good career after the age of 45. So, and I mean, no offence to Scott if you're listening, but I mean, he wasn't probably doing what James is doing for his body.
I think that's a fair statement. I don't know if that's a controversial sort of take.
Yeah. But anyway, so I mean, the over/under is set at 47.5, so that's 7.5 years. So yeah, still a lot to go actually.
I was thinking 50.
Yeah.
Hearing that had to be 50. Like he probably could think, like at the moment his pace is around that 130 to 135.
He's doing a real job in club cricket.
You can get away with
110.
Yeah, if he's still moving it.
If the skills are there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll settle on, I reckon...
Let's go 49.5 as the over-under.
I'd bang over.
Would you?
Oh, massively. My over and under would be like 53 and a half.
I'd probably take... it's tough to take the under at that, but I probably would have to at 53 and a half.
You're just sort of wondering how much ticker he's got for club cricket at that stage.
There's a lot of volts in the world, so you could get through sort of your Voltarans just to keep going to push that over out and really cook my multi.
Okay, all right. So we'll settle it around sort of 50. So
yeah, so he's definitely got 10 more in him.
Beautiful. And so you spoke about, I guess, the lack of a quick, and I guess instead of a quick, they've been going with Benjamin Stokes, and we've got a whole thing about here. He's got this doco, and what a time to release a documentary.
Yeah.
The marketing team must be absolutely pumped with this man of the match display. I mean, I don't know where to start. We can start with the bowling, I guess, because he was their enforcer. just especially on that third day, he just bowled. I think I've seen a stat. Oh, yeah, there it is. South Africa were about 130 off a 3, and Stokes comes in and bowls a 14 over spell either side of tee. He takes the 2 wickets. The second one was like, I don't know how he got it out of this pitch, but it's like he sort of swings it in and then it lifts off a length, and it's sort of one of those ones that like lifts up to hits the gloves on the way through, and then sort of goes back to the keeper. And it was with an older ball, and we sort of talked about how these balls aren't doing anything. Just exceptional to do that. He averages 45 with the bat, 23 with the ball as captain, and he made like him and Foakes made a match-winning 100. But for me, that the way, if we talk about his batting, the way he batted, that is the best version of Ben Stokes, in my opinion. I don't know what you thought, Jacko.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you want to talk about a guy leading from the front. I mean, he's just outstanding effort from Stokesy here in this test. It's probably, I mean, if you haven't seen the doco, it is worth a watch. It's probably hard to, describe his enforcer role without touching on the doco, because they do go in. I think Root and some of his old coaches sort of talk about just his desire to be the guy and his desire to sort of take punishment, and just like he wants to be in that hurt locker. So he's obviously comfortable in that role. He obviously sort of, I guess, seeks it out, which we saw in the doco, which was a little peek behind the curtain. So yeah, I mean, he wants to do it. He wants to lead England. There seems to be something about an English all-rounder that bowls quick, that just takes that role on, isn't it? Like, I mean, Flintoff did it in an Ashes series, said he's not going to stop bowling until they're all out on the 4th day. In that 05 Ashes, I think it was. Second test, third test maybe. But yeah, there's just something about that lion-hearted English all-rounder that just gets that ball in their hands and is a game changer. And yeah, I mean, with the bat, as you said, that's the best version of Stokes, and it's pretty unbelievable.
I just thought, like, when he first became captain, it was an obvious ploy that he wanted to go absolutely ballistic and just sort of take teams on, and maybe he needed to do that to show everyone that it's okay. I don't know. Maybe It was less about him scoring runs and more about showing everyone else it's okay to sort of take a risk on. I don't know. But when he bats like this, like he scored, where's the score? 103 off 163 balls, 3 sixes. And just him being out there, he's naturally dominant. So he's going to score quickly no matter what he does. He's got this presence about him. And, you know, you did touch on that doco, and we'll sort of go in and out as we talk about Stokes. But I loved one of the quotes from Warney in that doco. I can't quote it perfectly word for word, but he said something along the lines of, fans don't really remember averages. They remember sort of how they make you feel, or the match-winning moments. And I think that sort of sums up Ben Stokes, because probably the way he plays his cricket, he'll never be.
He's never going to average. He's never going to average 50 on the dot.
No, and if you look at his statistics as a whole, they don't jump out the screen, and they're not. He sort of like averages mid-30s, and he averages mid-30s with the ball, give or take. And it's not potentially, when you look back at him, like a few years down the track, he might not seem as good as he actually was. But
yeah,
I think what Stokes does is, when he's on and when things are clicking, at that point, he is the best player in the world. Like, he can be the best player in the world with not a lot of people. He just can't do it consistently.
And I think, we'll probably go into the doco, into him as captain a bit here, as you said. But I think it was summed up really well by Mark Wood in the documentary when he went to bat in the one-day final against us. Was it the one-day final against us? And he just said he talked to Stokes and he was almost glazed over.
Yeah.
And he almost gave him nothing. And it's just like, Stokes obviously has this ability to go into that zone, but it's not always going to be there. And I think that comes with the fact that, it is actually really tough to be in that space all the time. But when he's there, I mean, we've been on the direct end of it. The Aussies have been on the end of it. He doesn't just do it to small teams. He does it to anyone and anyone when he wants to. So, special to watch.
Yeah, I like that. And we might as well, we'll sort of fully segue to this doco because I mean, I thought it was. I mean, it's obviously it was outstanding.
Yeah, good
I mean,
doco.
It sort of gives you the chills. It gives you the feels.
Yeah.
It gives you, there's a couple times it might give you a wee tear. Is that
It's
sort
a
of
roller coaster.
It is a roller coaster, and that sort of sums up Ben Stokes because I sort of was thinking why people why he resonates with people because everyone loves him. I don't like if someone said to you on the street, I don't really like that Ben Stokes. You'd sort of give him a look. You'd be like,
you'd be shocked.
Like his approval rating is through the roof, and I think it's sort of like he has these highs, like the World Cup final, Edgbaston. This test that's just gone, but he has a lot of lows as well. So he's kind of like the lows. I think you can relate to it. So he's kind of relatable, and he sort of makes the common person feel like they can do anything because that's what he can do.
Yeah, you touched on the lows. Like that's all cricket is basically, isn't it? Like if you look back on your career, you remember the odd day you were a match winner, and the rest of it was all a bit average. So like, and Stokes is not a bit average every day, but like his failings and his low points are ones we've all experienced on the cricket field, and then his highs are like that day you dream about. So it's like exactly what you want out of your cricket is what he's doing on the world stage.
Have you got any sort of favourite parts of the doco? Because I guess actually before I talk about that, the one thing I would say about the doco is it's not telling you anything you didn't already know.
A few too many just like shots of black and white waves crashing on the shore too.
Yeah. Just a real sort of coastline sort of feel.
Yeah, just a lot of coast and a lot of guys talking over the coast. I probably would have liked to actually just watch Stuart Broad talk about Ben Stokes.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I like that because
probably my only criticism.
Yeah, there were a couple of nuggets. There were a couple of sort of nuggets. I think off the top of my head, the one that's doing the rounds is obviously the drama around Stokes getting suspended from England cricket after absolutely KOing that homophobe, I guess you call him. It's come full circle 2 years later when he was man of the match, of that World Cup, and a certain suit. I like how he calls them suits, by the way.
Yeah.
Which sort of tells you he is just blue collar, right? He is
rugby league playing father, like just
a sort of like down to earth sort of bloke that's leading his country sort of jobs. So this suit, I guess you call it, used to be on the ECB board, and he's asked for a selfie with Ben Stokes on the night of the World Cup final, and Ben Stokes just given him a real simple fuck off. On your bike, which I'm pretty happy about personally because only Ben Stokes could get away with that in that moment.
Yeah,
I feel. And what did he say? Like if he didn't know how I felt about him, he did that night.
Yeah, I've made it pretty clear now, sort of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then the other one was, and I put it on my story, but it's actually unreal now that you think about it, but. There was a few stump mics recording from that test because they had obviously this doco, they had the Australian doco. So
they're going on at Headingley, eh?
There must be all sorts of like just chats that no one's ever going to hear.
I'll tell you what I'd love, and this is a bit of a segue, like a bit of an interjection, but I'd love to be able to get that audio overplaying the test. I'd love to sort of sign a waiver, maybe sign up to a Patreon, R18, and just listen to that chat the whole test. I'd love it. Get the commentators out of there. Give me the stump mics on full, picking up everything.
Do you reckon the only thing the players would never go for it?
Absolutely not.
They would never sign off for it. And
we're not telling them.
I mean, can you just imagine? Like for example, like the one on my story when Stokes was walking to the crease just before his like match-winning innings and. Like some of that chat from the...
Matty Wade's yappy, isn't he?
It's pretty shit, to be honest. Like, what did Lyon say? He said something like, oh, me and you make a real good combination. Like, what's that?
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Like, okay.
Yeah, you're one of the best spinners ever and Stokes is the best all-rounder in the world. Like, thanks, like Sherlock. No shit.
Mate, catch a run-out, honestly.
Catch the ball, then do the run-out. Basics.
Stokes has just given it the fuck you, which is just... I reckon that at that point he must have had that glazed over look, eh?
Yeah.
Like, don't mess with me. I'm in the zone. I couldn't think, like, they always, I've heard stories over the years about sledges and who to sledge and who not to sledge. And I've always heard, like, Brian Larry don't sledge because he goes up a level and that sort of stuff. Like, surely Ben Stokes is in that sort of class. Like, why would you want to sort of give him more of a motivation?
Because they're Aussies. They think they're the king of sledging, and they think that's the best way they play. But yeah, I wouldn't be talking to him. It
is funny because all this has been taken at the same time of that Australian doco about sort of lifting the Australian profile. They left a lot of that stuff out, didn't they?
Yeah, they didn't leave Wade sort of spraying everyone from under the lid, did they?
It wasn't even a good chat. Like, it was just, oh, he's real quiet now. He's not with his mates. You know what, mate? Most people are more quiet when they bat. That happens.
Yeah, everyone generally is.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Jesus.
And Jason Roy hasn't scored a bone all series. Of course, he's not going to say anything when he's batting.
What else is there from that? I think that's all I've sort of got from that doco.
I think we've covered off the good points. I think we'd hate to ruin it for someone, but I think it is a really important watch in terms of, I suppose, that period of 2 years for not only Ben Stokes, but I think cricketers in general, and sort of what the players in the international game were going through in the bubbles and stuff. So, I think a really important watch when you sort of look at tours and go, well, why aren't all the Black Caps playing, or why aren't all these guys here and stuff. So, yeah, I think it's an important look into the pressures these guys are actually under outside of the game, and how hard touring is and has been for the last 2 years. That's probably the only other point I took from it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess the biggest message, like you said, is just sort of, it is around mental health, which is another sort of like a feather in Stokes' cap, where he is he felt that he needed to step away to send the message to everyone else that if he can do it, then everyone else can. I think
100%.
That's what makes him as good of a leader. Like everything he does on the field, it's that sort of stuff that makes him an even better leader, because it's just, and we've seen it, like Coley's come out and said some stuff around mental health, but he wasn't feeling too flash. And the more these like legends of the game talk about it, the more it's okay for bloody like Billy off the street to talk about it.
100%. And I mean, everything, like, it's a sport, isn't it? You're always going to look to the best of the best, and if they, like, I guess if Kane gets a new bat, everyone wants his stickers. When McCullum had a Puma and kept in Puma gloves, every keeper in the country had Pumas. Like, that's just how it revolves with everything else. So, like, if these guys are opening up, it just becomes, there's less stigma, and it's normalised, isn't it? And it's, I mean, it can only be good for everyone that plays the game.
Beautiful. All right, we'll sign off now. We'll move on to out or not out. We'll take a different turn. We'll talk about the other parts of the game, and we're yet to have a sponsor for out or not out. So if you are keen,
today's segment could lead to a sponsor, actually.
Well, I'll tell you what, it won't be
Depends
Rebel
on
Sport.
our takes, yeah.
It won't be Rebel Sport.
It's not going to be Rebel after this.
That's for damn sure. So we're sort of changing it up with out or not out. We want to open it up to the public. We want to sort of get the fans involved, get the listeners involved, and instead of us just sort of dribbling on. So this week we opened it up. I chucked a wee story on last night, and we had a few questions come through in it. This one was unanimous from the boys that we needed to talk about this one. The question is out. So the question is out or not out, getting a bat from Rebel Sport. Now, I guess if you don't have Rebel Sport, I would imagine, New Zealand, Australia, I think they're the only two that have Rebel Sport.
It's your Sports Directs in the UK. Sort of your sports wholesaler, your sports retailer, isn't it? Everything in the one place.
They have a little bit of everything, but they don't have a lot of good stuff in one thing, if that makes sense. So before I get into it, we've got a message from Simon. He wanted to chip in.
Out or not out on buying your bat from Rebel Sport? I mean, that's actually potentially one of the great out or not outs all time. Immediately, my instinct is obviously a clear out. Don't be doing that. Head down to your local cricket store, Jackson will have a bit of experience. Not sure if you mentioned it, but your Cricket Express, long live, or your Otago Sports Depot, both great stores. But what I will say that Rebel Sport has going for it is a sale. And that may mean a lot to you. So they might get mostly shit cricket bats, but occasionally they might get one goodie. And then most weekends, you can get that 20% off. So maybe that brings them into the game. What I would say is I'm certainly out on buying your bat from Rebel on a regular Saggy with no sale going on. But am I in on buying your bat from Rebel Sport, Waitangi Day, 40% off? There's a deal to be had there. There's absolutely a deal to be had there. So maybe I'm in on that. Sure, I mean, I wouldn't, even on a sale, I wouldn't want to admit to it. But I think maybe I'm in.
Great start.
Just a lovely summary, really. Yeah, great start. Preface first of all for Rebel Sport. Lovely to have them there.
It's good to be there.
It's good to be there, but you know what I mean? You're going through Rebel on a Saggy, you're with your miso, the family, maybe even the lads are going in to get some golf balls or something like that. And you just see the bats there and you've just got to have a wee shadow bat. And it is nice, sort of if you're doing some shopping, you're out for a day like that, it is nice to have that wee break up in the day just to get sort of 4 off 8 and get yourself a wee start in the Rebel aisle.
Nick off a couple of times.
Yeah, maybe nick off, square yourself up, but it's gone through the cordon, you're 4 off 1, lovely start. So yeah, I will say that is nice to have them there from Rebel. Yeah, my thoughts on this, slightly different to Crom's, and I'm going to set an age on it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so I think if you are at primary school or intermediate, not out, go for gold. You're probably not playing a high enough level of cricket to worry about it too much. As Crom said, do support local, go to your cricket store because they'll be able to size you up, service you that way, be a lot better experience. But I mean, if it's a stocking filler, a Christmas present for a young nipper, getting them into the game, not out. If you're under the age of, let's say, 12, let's say once high school kicks in, hard out. Do not go to Rebel Sport for your cricket bats. Go to either your local shop or get yourself sponsored. There you go.
Just get yourself sponsored. I like that. Yeah, just we all like Rebel. Like we don't want Rebel to disappear.
No.
They have its place. I often get like golf stuff there. You can go there, get a wee clearance sort of jobs.
Yeah, you have your sunnies. Your sunnies there. You wait till it's 25% off everything, and you pick them up.
Clothes are good. Always good. Always good to give someone a voucher there as a present. Big fan of that sort of stuff. But cricket gear, and I don't know what it's like, but I can only comment on the Dunedin Rebel Sport, and it is absolutely disgraceful the cricket stuff they have in there. Honestly, I was actually there in the weekend. I was over there like a few days ago because I was getting a voucher, of course. And
what did you get when you shadow batted?
Oh, I didn't even pick up a bat. They were disgraceful.
Yeah, that's rough. That's poor.
They didn't have a single full size bat at Rebel Sport, which is
that'd have been all right. Do they have any harrows for you?
No, I don't know. I left in a huff.
Just livid and left. Yeah,
I was left in a huff because like you said, one of the best pastimes is just picking up a bat. How's the feel? I like this one. Yeah, what's the pickup? No one actually knows what that means.
Yeah, where's the middle? Is it high middle? Is it a low middle?
Yeah, like you actually know where the fuck you hit the ball.
Does a high middle suit my game? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm going to nick it off anyway.
Yeah, I got it out of the middle once. Who cares?
100%. But I mean, personally, I haven't paid full price for a bat, and God knows out because you've just got to get it through someone. You've got to. I mean, we can probably. I mean, I'd love to. Have you got a favourite bat that you ever had? Because mine would be when you get one off like a first class player.
Yeah,
I remember getting one off old Robbo, our old skip, and that just had a ridiculous amount of ping. Definitely can't buy that at Rebel, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I've got a lovely one I've got off one of the Canterbury boys at the moment that just, as you said, the players' ones are special. They just, there's a bit more about them, and the one I've got at the moment is very good.
Outstanding. So I guess I would say I'll go with Jacko. We're not out, probably intermediate and below, but a hard out any older. Yeah. You just got to grow up. I mean, that's yeah. I don't know what else to tell you. That's where I'm at. So
yeah, parents, if you're listening, see what year your school kid's in, and then go to the appropriate store.
Yeah, I mean, bats are expensive. Like Jesus
they
Christ,
are. Yeah,
just buddy up to like a pro or a first class player.
Yeah.
And just grab just get a stick, do it, go get some throwdowns, do a Lockie Ware, and see if you can pick yourself a stick, because do not be bowling. You can't be sort of going to rebel, that's for sure.
Nah, not for your sticks.
Very good. All right, shall we we'll move on to Coach Corner today. Yep. Sort of a different sort of scenario. This one's sort of going to be led by Jackson a little bit, because he is the bowler in this group, I would say. But we do have a wee message from Simon, so we'll start with him, and then we'll sort of go through there. So the question is, what can I do to minimise lower back pain and inner thigh pain from bowling? Before we get on to bloody Simon's message, I've never heard of anyone having inner thigh pain from bowling. So I mean, I don't either this guy doesn't know what he's doing, or I don't know anything. I'm not a fast bowler for one, so there you go. But I'll leave it at that, and then I'll touch in once you guys are done. So
yeah, quickly, groin stuff happens, but I wouldn't say I've ever had persistent inner groin pain from bowling. So yeah, we'll get into Crom's message, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm certainly probably not qualified to talk about sort of back injuries with fast bowlers, maybe bowlers in general. But I think it does open up a wider discussion on sort of your loads and your load management. Because obviously there's an old school sort of theory of, well, no, you just bowl and you bowl and you bowl. And look, a lot of those guys probably didn't break down quite as much as they do now, but potentially they also didn't play quite as much. And maybe they didn't get injured, but they also weren't bowling at 100%. With the way that cricket is now, and the way they can measure every stat and know if a bowler's bowling at 100% or 80%, it seems foolish to bowl someone too much and have it be an issue. But there's still sort of a part of me that thinks maybe we're getting a bit too precious with it. And I don't, like you look at Jimmy and bowling till 40, and, there's got to be a want. There's got to be a want from these players and fast bowlers. And I think there is for the most part, that just wants to bowl and bowl and bowl. And obviously bowling and cricket in general is one of those sports that's very rhythm based. So you can't get into it without bowling those overs. So, I mean, Jacko will be able to talk to you more about how he's felt as a bowler and everything. But I sort of think you've got to learn to bowl those loads and really pride yourself on being able to bowl long term. And that's where I think your fitness does have to be high. You have to do your core work, do some running, and take the game seriously. Unlike Rashant Pan, because you won't make the Indian side. I'll tell you that for free. You will not make the Indian side if your fitness isn't up to scratch.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. I guess,
outstanding intro.
That is brilliant. We could take it in all sorts of directions, but Jacko, how do you follow from that?
Yeah, I mean, bowling loading, I could probably get some people on that know a lot more about it than I do, in terms of the theory and the numbers and the reasoning behind it. But from a simple standpoint, I mean, there's two things that are going to cause sort of lower back pain. The elephant in the room is probably like a stress fracture, which is like a very prevalent thing for fast bowlers. I think it's 1/3 of fast bowlers will get a stress fracture in their sort of career. So yeah, I'll start saying I've never had one. So I've probably never had
touch wood.
So never had one. So can't talk from that side of thing. But yeah, I mean, I suppose loading in general, the general rule is you never want to go above 25% of the previous week's amount of overs bowled. And then you also probably every 4 or 5 weeks want to have a down week where you drop the percentage right back, and then build back up again. That's a very sort of overarching figure. Again, there's also levels that you bowl at and building up to a game intensity, but I mean that's probably a little bit far away from club cricket. But yeah, so that's one rule of it. Then if you want to look technically, the biggest causing of stress fractures is when you have your hips and your shoulders are not aligned. So I don't know if, I guess you have three types of bowlers: front on, side on, and 45. So if your hips are side on and your shoulders are front on, which would be very awkward to look at, but probably the better way around is your hips are front on and your shoulders are side on. Then that's when you're adding extra stress into that lumbar spine, and that's when you really are at risk of lower back pain. So yeah, I mean, probably if you're a clubby, you probably just want to have a quick look at your technique. Try and get your hips and your shoulders aligned, because that's technically the safest way to bowl. And then you do want to build yourself up slowly and sort of, if you can, follow that 25% rule. And yeah, as Crom touched on, another point, I remember I used to bowl, my favourite method of bowling in club cricket was I would bowl all training on a Tuesday night, and then I'd bowl maybe 5 overs on a Thursday, get my batting in and get my fielding in, and I'll be good to go for a Saturday to bowl sort of whatever. So that's how I sort of mapped out my week to avoid sort of too much pain. And yeah, as I said, never had a stressy, so who knows if that's the magic formula or not. I'm not saying it is, but yeah, probably your best point to start is make sure those hips and shoulders are aligned, and then go from there.
Yeah, that was nice. That was nice, Jacko. So I guess, yeah, so like what you're sort of saying with the loads is it's sort of building up a tolerance level, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
100%.
Yes, in a simplified form, and whether that number's 25% or 20, and everyone's different. It is as long as you're sort of building it up at the correct sort of level.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you're looking at first week of club cricket, and I'm going to bowl 10 overs, probably 5 at each training, you probably look back and go, right, well, I've got 5 weeks to get ready for that. I probably need to start with 2 sessions of 3 or 4 overs, and then the next week 2 sessions of 5 overs, and then the next week 2 sessions at 12, and then you're almost there. So yeah, as you said, it's slowly building it up, getting your body ready for it, because bowling is a violent act on your body. So yeah, to do it repeatedly without getting it sort of acclimatized, yeah, that's when you're going to get a lot of pain.
That's a good point that you bring up about it being a violent sort of scenario, because it just is such an unnatural sort of thing to do as fast bowling. And you've got, I don't know what the amount of force is, but you've got so much force going through all your joints, and that means that all what you talked about with your hips and your shoulders, if they're even like a fraction off, and you're sort of going down hard on the ground, it might even be astro, it might be grass. Like obviously, if it's astro, it's going to put that extra pressure through those joints, and then if your action is slightly off, and you're bowling over and over and over again, it's just sort of slowly wearing out your body, and you won't feel it. You won't feel it one time. Obviously, if your action's really bad, it might happen quicker. But even if it's slightly off, eventually your body's going to wear down. And that's why, it only has to be a little off. They always talk about these perfect actions, like people like Anderson and Glenn McGrath, and they're also, it's like so rhythmic.
Yeah.
Like there's no effort. It's just a real simple, repeatable action.
And another thing about like the perfect action as well, if you're an adult now, your body has also gotten itself accustomed to your action as well. So don't by any means overhaul things and go, I've got to have these perfect hips and shoulders. Just sort of making some little tweaks is all that's going to be needed, hopefully. Because if you're 20, let's say you're 25 playing club cricket and you're having these issues, a complete overhaul, you're going to have like natural weaknesses and spots you didn't know you had, and then if you change your action completely, those weaknesses are going to get found out, and you're probably going to get more hurt. So just subtle tweaks to what you've already got is key. Just bring that alignment in a little bit where you can, and that hopefully should help. But don't take my word for it. See a physio, see a fast bowling coach.
That's right. And Charlie Hantler, if you're listening, and I know it's you, you're playing 3rd and 4th grade. You don't need to be remodeling your action. Keep it simple. Don't bowl all the time. Cheers.
listeners. Lugsy here, piping back in right at the end of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed Munter and Jacko giving you all you could handle on cricket. I just wanted to pipe back in with one last snack. I've just devoured a wee hot and spicy KFC chicken pack just to end my Sunday night. So I hope you had a great time listening to the pod. And all you guys remember, if in doubt, hit out. Enjoy your cricket.
Beautiful. Yeah. And
is that a meal? Let's.
So it's another full-on meal we're going here with. But it's another. We'll add it to the list. Thanks, Simon. Yeah. So cheers. Yeah, as he said, I hope you everyone enjoyed the podcast. The listeners have been. I'm loving the interaction from the listeners. We're getting a lot of great feedback.
Shout out friend of the show, Jacob Duffy, in the New Zealand A tour to India at the moment. If he's listening, big fan of the show, big friend of the show.
Big friend of the show. We have to get him on. Actually, he probably could have helped us with that bowling question. To be fair, so just on next week, we've got a big podcast next week. We've got a preview to the Chappell Hadley series between Australia and New Zealand. We're going to do the top 5 moments in Chappell Hadley history. So if you've got any that you want to see, I might chuck something on the page at some point. But send out what you want. The boys will count it down, and we'll talk about our favourite memories.
Yeah, maybe leave a 5-star review and put your favourite Chappell Hadley memory in to get it a shout out.
Yes, Jacko, I like that. And if you really, really want a shout out,
if you want your list read out, subscribe to the Patreon. That's it. Thanks, Jacko.
Patreon.com/MaximumCricket. But in the meantime, have yourselves a great week. Thank you to Lugsy for sending us a message, and thanks to Jacko for joining us this week. And we'll catch you again next week.
Thanks, mate.